Okay, we have 29 voting members present.
And I resume the standing orders.
We have a small technical issue with the presentation. Please give us 2 minutes to share screen. Perfect. Okay, now we can go to the next point of the agenda. That's EPSA torso changes. We will first have TOR changes. And for this one, it requires 2/3 majority when voting. Okay, so I will read the motion, and after that, I will open the floor for discussion on the motion. The 60th EPSA General Assembly adopts the changes of the EPSA terms of reference proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion. Mihai, with a new point?
Mihai, President. So, among these changes, there is the proposal to add an article that prohibits members from applying if they are in debt. If PC can help me by showing that article, I would be grateful. And then I will continue to explain what I want to say about it. Thank you. If you can scroll down to the one I'm mentioning. No, this is for standing orders. I meant for terms of reference. Okay, perfect. Scroll down, please. This one. So we are proposing to add an association that has lost its membership in EPSA shall not be able to apply for membership in EPSA until they have paid their debts. As you very well know, we have laid on the table ISFA Italy's application, and I would like to ask actually the General Assembly to propose a 9.15 on this and then to propose a 9.6 to move only this TOR change after we discuss ISFA's application so that they do not interfere.
BPSA with a clarification.
2 seconds. Sebastian, BPSA UK. I think it's important to clarify when we're discussing this change, are we allowed to discuss it in the context of ISFA, or are we not allowed to discuss it in the context of ISFA? Thank you.
Mihai with a clarification.
Mihai, President, can you please explain what do you mean by discussing in the context of ISFA?
So when
BPSA.
Sebastian, BPSA UK. So when we're discussing this change, are we allowed to discuss the reasons why this change is being brought about, such as discussing about the specific situation with ISFA? Thank you.
Mihai with a direct.
Mihai, President, yes, it can be discussed with that context, and I can already tell you that this is a change left by the 2019-2020 executive. It is not firstly discussed by the current executive.
Thank you. Because the 9.15 was not seconded immediately, I will have to take the next point. Okay, we have 9.15 proposed by KNPSV, seconded by EPSA. I will give the floor to KNPSV.
Kathy, KNPSV Netherlands. Like Mihai mentioned, we would like to postpone this to a later moment.
Now I will give the floor to EPSA.
Eva, EPSA Ireland, we also support Katie and Mihai in moving these changes up to of the standing orders to after.
Thank you. I open the floor for discussion on the 9.15. BPSA.
Sebastian, BPSA UK. I don't see why the changes to the standing orders can't be discussed now and agreed upon. Thank you.
Mihai with a technical.
Mihai, President, we are discussing the 9.15. At the moment, we are discussing whether it is useful or not to discuss this rank change separately from the block. Thank you.
Shushi Sufudu with a new point.
Drop.
Mihai with a technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussion on the 9.15.
Thank you. Now we are voting on the 9.15. That means that if the 9.15 is carried, we will then need a 9.6 to postpone the that change of the article after discussing ISA next Saturday. Okay, now please vote for, against, or abstain in the chat for the 9.15. Okay, there are 29 votes for the 915. Okay, now we move on to this motion. I will read it. The 60th EPSA General Assembly adopts the changes of the EPSA terms of reference proposed by the executive on Article 3.10.11. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai?
Mihai, President, as explained before, I would like to ask the General Assembly to propose and pass a 9.6 to postpone this motion after we discuss the application of ISFA Italy. Thank you.
I have a 9.6 proposed by KMPSV, seconded by APEF. I give the floor to KMPSV.
Kathy, KMPSV Netherlands. Like me, I mentioned we would like to discuss this after the discussion about ISFA. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I give the floor to APEF.
Inês APEF Portugal, we agree.
Thank you. A small technical, APEF was first in my chat. And now I open the floor for discussion on the 9.6. Mihai with a technical.
Mihai, President, thank you very much for your understanding, and I close the floor for discussion on the 9.6.
Thank you. Now please vote for, against, or abstain for the 9.6. On the 9. There are 29 votes for the 9.6 is carried. Now we shall come back to the motion. The 60th EPSA General Assembly adopts the changes of the EPSA terms of reference proposed by the executive, except for the change on Article 3.10.11. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Thank you. KMPSV with the technical.
Kathy, KMPSV, the Netherlands. There was a spelling error because in 1 second. I had it here. My apologies. Or calling attention. A point of order must be heard at all times, except during voting. It must deal with the conduct of the General Assembly and concern only such matters as decorum. And then in the proposal, you have a comma, transgression, but it should be or transgression of the regulations.
Thank you for that. Can you please send it to PC, because PC is allowed to amend spelling and grammar errors on regulations. Thank you. Mihai with a direct.
More like a technical, Mihai, President. We are now discussing the changes for the terms of reference, which is the first part of torso. You're mentioning grammar error on the second part on the standing orders. If there are from anyone any further comments about the standing orders, please hold with them, because we'll be discussing standing orders separately. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a technical from Jess as well. Sorry. It's dropped. Okay. Now the first point, Patrick.
Patrick Alanis, the question about the last point that was proposed, so 22.2.2.8. As a previous EPSA treasurer, I'm definitely in favor of having this kind of regulation. But as it goes now, persons who have owed EPSA money for a period greater than 1 year shall not be confirmed as participants for an EPSA event. I asked the executive if this could be changed in a period of greater than 3 months instead of 1 year, because according to my experience and talking with a lot of other treasurers, you have the highest chance of getting back your money within the first few months. And if you have 1 year stated as it is now, that would mean that you could participate in at least 2 more congresses. And the average EPSA participant does not attend more than 2 congresses. So it does not really make sense to uphold it for more than 1 year. So is the executive, could they amend it to a greater period of than 3 months, or do they have a specific reason why they want to have it at 1 year?
Thank you. Mihai with a direct.
Mihai, President, the motion in a different wording was first proposed by Camber in the previous mandate, and we agreed with the reasoning for having this, but I have briefly discussed now over Telegram with the executive, and we agree with the amendment. We can move it to 3 months. Your reasoning is perfectly good, so this shall be amended. We do not need to change the document in this specific instance. We have discussed, and if it passes, it will pass with 3 months instead of 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I have EPSA with a new point.
On Sophie via Belgium, I just wanted to ask some questions about the regulation number 22.2.2.3, where you want to state that any member state can only send 5% to any event. We think that it's not so fair for members who have larger associations with a lot of students. I think 5% of the participants for an association that only has 200 students, or an association that has 3,000 students like ours, is a lot of difference. And we see that a lot of more students are from VFSO are the ones to come to events.
Thank you. Mihai with a direct.
Mihai, President, you have unfortunately misunderstood exactly what the EPSA executive is proposing here, so I will explain once again. During the first registration period, this means only in the first 60 days, usually, of the EPSA Annual Congress, EPSA Autumn Assembly, or EPSA SU, no more than 5% of the available places, which means at these events, aka AC, AA, or SU, shall be distributed to participants from each country. This, in more words, would mean that no delegation in the first registration period only will be allowed to have more than 5% of the available places at the event. This is not taking into account how many members, how many students each association is declaring. This is added in order to make sure that we have a pool of participants at each event as uniform as possible and that as many countries as possible are represented. If this passes, it will mean that only after the first registration period, RCs will be able to accept more than 5% of the available places from a specific country. Is it clear now?
Vicky, so with a direct?
Varda Vevers of Belgium. Thank you for the clarification. We understood it, but we still think it will cause a lot of misunderstanding for the students because if we wait longer, flights are becoming expensive. We think it's the responsibility of the organization to communicate with their students about this, and we understand you want to have all countries represented on the Congress, but there are other ways to solve this problem.
Mihai with a direct?
Mihai, President, this article is coming, let's say, in a package with the change proposed to Article 22.222 and to what will become 22.224. So far, during the first registration period, there was a minimum quota of 2% of the spots allocated to each country. What this means is that 68% of the total number of spots are locked, let's say, in the first registration period in order to make sure that we have as many students represented. This whole change should be seen as a unit. And the aim here is to unlock the places after the 25 days, but still to have a safety measure in place to ensure that we don't have a delegation with 40, 45 members and then delegations with very few numbers because some countries register fast and some not and so on, because we are completely aware that these happen. But with the 25 days and with this cap, we believe that it is giving everyone equal chance to attend events. Also, to add to this, what I am explaining about distributing spots to countries is already explained in Events Handbook. This is not a huge change. We're not changing how registrations work. Usually RCs take this into account and try to make sure that we have as many countries represented as possible. Also, there is already an article in Torso that says every effort should be put to make sure that every country is equally represented. This is just clarifying how the procedure should work.
Thank you. I have no other points on the speaking list. If you have any other comments. Mihai with the technical?
Mihai, President, I see no other points on the speaking list, so I close the floor for discussions.
Before moving on to voting, I would like to ask if I should write amended here. Because, okay. Okay, I will draw a line. I will read the motion again. The 60th EPSA General Assembly adopts the amended changes of the EPSA terms of reference proposed by the executive, except for the change on Article 3.10.11. Please vote for, against, or abstain in the chat. I have 28 votes so far. Okay, 29, thank you. Please pay attention to voting procedures. Motion was carried unanimously. We can move on to the next point on the agenda, standing orders, executive changes. I will read the motion. The 60th EPSA General Assembly adopts the changes of the EPSA standing orders proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai?
Mihai, President, I had a discussion in the morning with Svetlana, to whom I am very thankful, and she pointed out a different view on the changes that we are proposing that I did not see yet. So I would like to ask PC to open the document so that I can explain what I am talking about and what we would like to amend. Okay, so can you scroll down a bit, please? This change proposed to Article 3.4 a bit above. Thank you. Article 3 itself is talking about the chairperson. We are proposing to add the facilitator and passing the facilitation when stepping into the discussion, which is a good idea. But since Article 3 is talking about the chairperson, I would like to move this change to Article 4.6 of the standing orders at the end of it. And also to remove another and to leave facilitation to a member of the EPSA Parliamentary Council or the EPSA Executive. We must not necessarily have the PC facilitating, although this is the common practice, but having the word another there is not right, so to say, and it makes much more sense to add this sentence at the end of Article 4.6. This would be one change we are proposing. Next would be at Article 4.3. We're proposing to add at least. I would like to drop this correct change because it says shall preferably appoint four meeting secretaries. With that preferably that I did not see when I first proposed this motion to be discussed in the executive, we have the freedom to appoint one, we have the freedom to appoint 10. I believe that we should appoint exactly 4, and this is why it was proposed, as it is said in the motivation, but that preferably gives this option anyway. So I'm proposing to drop the change on Article 4.3. And next is about Article 12.26. We're proposing to delete interested in order to make sure that we have someone running for party. But if this passes, as it is, if the closed door PC meeting does not have an outcome with only one person proposed, we'll be forced each time to have a motion among the whole, like all 3 PC members elected to have a parliamentarian. This can be a good idea, but it will lead to long motion, as you have probably seen when we voted the coordinator's motion last GA. So I propose to drop this change as well, and I encourage the official delegates to ask all the candidates for PC all mandates if they are interested to run, and to also take into account when appointing PC members if someone will be interested to become parliamentarian. So this will also be dropped. And that is it from my part. Thank you, and apologies for the last minute change, but we have just seen this and it is better to do it than to change it and change it again. Thank you.
Thank you. A clarification from AFOP, and please rename yourself.
Alina, AFOP Austria. But then if the PC members get elected and still no one is interested, there is no way at all to appoint a parliamentarian?
Mihai with a direct.
Mihai, President, in case such unique situation will happen in the future, there is always a room to have a different motion proposed, maybe to suspend something, maybe to deal with the situation as it arises.
Thank you. Are there any more new points on this change? Well, standing orders changes. Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussion, and also I would like to ask you to amend the motion to say the amended changes to the standing orders. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I will read the motion again. The 60th EPSA General Assembly adopts the amended changes of the EPSA standing orders proposed by the executive. Please vote for, against, or abstain in the chat. Thank you. We have 29 votes. Motion was carried unanimously. We can move on to the next point of the agenda, that's handbook changes to approve. We will first go to executive handbook changes. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes on the executive handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. AFOP?
Alina, AFOP Austria. We were just wondering, since the release of the department meeting minutes will be regulated if this change gets approved, is there a regulation for how often department meetings should happen? Thank you.
Mihai with a direct.
Mihai, President, short answer no, and such thing in my opinion should not be regulated because it is the freedom of each department and it is the freedom of the dynamic of each department to have those. But at the moment, it is common practice to have updates in those meeting minutes. And this is coming let's say together with the change of on the reports handbook, when we are taking away 2 reports that consist in updates, this is to balance a bit the lack of information that can be created towards members. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more comments on this motion? Mihai with a technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. I will read the motion again. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the executive handbook proposed by the executive. Please vote for, against, or abstain in the chat. "29 votes for, motion was carried unanimously. We can move on to the next point of the agenda, EPSA Coordinators Handbook. I will read the motion. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the EPSA Coordinators Handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai with a technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the EPSA Coordinators Handbook proposed by the executive. Please vote for, against, or abstain in the chat. I have 28 votes until now. We need one more vote. Thank you. 29 votes. Motion was carried unanimously. We can move on to the next point on the agenda, reports handbook. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the reports handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai with a new point.
Mihai, President, as you are well aware, we have a working statement to restructure the association. This is one of the first steps taken in that direction. This is coming from the comments we had from at least the previous team, if not from the previous 2 teams, that writing update reports all the time is time consuming and is not that helpful for the team. So this is the first step taken in that direction, and more will come after. Thank you.
Mihai with a technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Please wait until I read the motion and you can vote. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the reports handbook proposed by the executive. Please vote for, against, or abstain. I have 28 votes until now. 29, thank you. Motion was carried unanimously. We can move on to the next point on the agenda, LS Handbook. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the LS Handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, the changes are only about the EduProf platform name change. Since we had no comments yet, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. We can go to the voting procedure. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the LS Handbook proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. Thank you. We have 29 votes for. Motion was carried unanimously. We can move on to the next point of the agenda, Event Handbook. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the EPSA Event Handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai with the technical.
First technical would be to please also add and its annexes to the motion, because we are also doing a lot of changes to the annexes.
Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions. Thank you.
Okay, the 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the EPSA Event Handbook and its annexes proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. Thank you. We have 28 votes for, 1 abstention. Motion was carried. Next point of the agenda, EPSA Science Day Handbook. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approved the changes of the EPSA Science Day Handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion. Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the EPSA Science Day Handbook proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. Thank you. There were 29 votes for. Motion was carried unanimously. Moving on to the Mentoring Project Handbook. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the Mentoring Project Handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion. Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the Mentoring Project Handbook proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. We have 29 votes for. Motion was carried unanimously. Next, LEAP Handbook. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the LEAP Handbook proposed by the executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the changes of the LEAP Handbook proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. 28 votes so far. We need one more vote. Twenty-nine votes for, thank you. Motion was carried unanimously. Next, the EPSA House Handbook. This motion is proposed by Chairperson Slovenia, seconded by NF France. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the amended changes of the EPSA House Handbook proposed by Chairperson Slovenia, seconded by NF France. I open the floor for discussion on this change. Chairperson.
Mojca SSFD Slovenia. We wish to amend the original regulation change laid on the table at the 59th General Assembly. At the last GA, we saw that more investigation on the matter is needed. We had a meeting with EPSA and we agreed on this wording.
Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the amended changes on the EPSA House Handbook proposed by Chairperson Slovenia and seconded by NF France. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. Twenty-eight votes so far. Thank you. 29 votes. Motion was carried unanimously. Next point on the agenda is handbooks to approve. EPSA Training Project Handbook. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the EPSA Training Project Handbook proposed by the Executive. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Afo? No, Mihai with a new point first.
Drop, let Afo go first.
Okay, Afo?
Alina Af of Austria. We were just wondering if it now needs to say amended handbook because we the amended proposals because we talked about it in the OD meeting.
Mihai with a direct?
Mihai, President, just what I wanted to raise in my new point. Yes, let's write amended because we have made a small change in one of the annexes of the handbook. When I originally created the annex, I used a former contract of TNT as an example, and I forgot to delete some mentions of that specific TNT. Everything was amended, so as you have seen in the GA package. Thank you.
Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussions.
Thank you. Now, the 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the amended EPSA Training Project Handbook and its annexes proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. We still need one more vote. We have 28. Now there are Now we have doubled votes. There are 31 votes total with the doubled ones. I would ask you to, there are 30 without the double votes, so I will ask you to vote again, please. AFOP with a clarification.
Marlene AFOP Austria, and I truly apologize for only noticing this now, but in the UD meeting we discussed amendments that are not in the updates right now. So I'm not sure what to do because the floor is already closed, but then we talked about the amendments, but they weren't updated.
To answer your clarification, I amended them and they were sent to Danny to upload to the GA package. They should be there. Mihai, with a direct?
Mihai, President, what can be done in this situation, if indeed they were not uploaded and seen by everyone, is to vote abstain. That will mean they will be automatically laid on the table and we can discuss them during AOB next week.
A technical from Daniela, they are uploaded, and a direct from AFOP.
Marlene AFOP Austria, the updated annexes were uploaded, but in the training project itself, we talked about writing out the abbreviations and they are not there. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm not sure if exec decided against it or what happened.
Mihai with a direct?
Mihai, President, we had a little issue and lost the notes and did not have the time to go again through the minutes. I have discussed this with you and I have asked you for your notes. I guess this slipped. This is a small error that we wanted to do. For clarity, I would like to propose an amendment to explain every abbreviation in the training project itself. And if the G is fine with it, we will amend the final version. This is not a change that is affecting the content in any way, it's just explaining something. So I guess it is all right to be done. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, now I'll read the motion again. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the amended EPSA Training Project Handbook and its annexes proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. $29. There is a small typo, please correct that. It's the last vote, so we don't have any issues. But there are 29 votes for. Please be careful when you type. Fifth Spain, please send your vote again because it has a typo. Okay. There is one more vote after that. So that would mean 30 votes. We will redo the voting. Please be careful when you type. Okay. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the amended EPSA Training Handbook and its annexes proposed by the executive. Please type for, against, or abstain in the chat. I have 28 votes. We still need one more vote. Okay. We have 29 now. Only now the motion is carried unanimously. Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I think we are a bit ahead of the agenda, but since more things need to be discussed next week and they require a bit of preparation, we cannot move anything for today. So I would say that this is how we will end this weekend in GA. Thank you very much to everyone that attended so far. I wish to see you next week as well and to contribute to the discussions. Since we have quite a few points moved, I will try to do another agenda to allocate proper time to each point and to see exactly if there is a need to split into 3 sessions next Saturday. There is a possibility for that. You will see an email coming from me. I cannot tell you now if it's gonna be on Monday or when it will be, but it will be for sure until Friday. And on this, I will ask Daniela to start with the roll call.
First, I have a new point from AFO.
Marlene AFO Austria, we were just wondering why we couldn't do EPSA IPSF MOU by now, because it's just to approve, since there can't be any changes anymore, because we talked about it by email.
Mihai with a direct.
Mihai, President, sure, we can take the MOU right now.
Okay, then we will move this point. Okay, next point of the agenda, EPSA IPSF MOU. A small technical, we have to write the motion now. Okay, the 60th EPSA General Assembly approved the EPSA IPSF Memorandum of Understanding. I open the floor for discussion on this motion. Mihai?
Mihai, President, I am aware from the IPSF General Assembly that on the last page, the names and signature part is missing. That will be added when we will be signing the final version. Thank you.
Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, I close the floor for discussion on the motion.
Thank you. The 60th EPSA General Assembly approves the EPSA IPSF Memorandum of Understanding. Please type 4 against or abstain in the chat. We have 29 votes for. Motion was carried unanimously. Mihai with the technical.
Mihai, President, Daniela, please proceed with the roll call.
Thank you. Can I just ask the PC to write the line in the chat, please? Thank you. Okay. AFA Austria, VFSO Belgium, SAFUN Bosnia and Herzegovina, BPHSA Bulgaria, CPSA Croatia, CUPSA Cyprus, USF Czech Republic, CUPSA Estonia, FIPSA Finland, ANEP France, BPHG Germany, GPSF Greece, IPSA Ireland, LPSA Latvia, SFD Lithuania, MPSA North Macedonia, KDO, ENDO, PDO, ESDO, VDO the Netherlands, NOPSA Norway, PPSA Poland, AFF Portugal, FASFR Romania, NAPSR Serbia, SPSA Slovakia, SHISTAPA Slovenia, FF Spain, SNAP Sweden, ATSEP Switzerland, CUPSA International Turkey, BPSA United Kingdom. We have 29 voting members present.
And I suspend the standing orders. Before you leave, do we have Dylan in the room? I think he has an announcement to make. I guess not. He will be in touch. Oh, we have him. Please go ahead, Dylan. No speaking rules. Standing orders are suspended.
Apologies. So to all the LSs and to all the ODs in the room, I made an announcement in the LS group and I made an announcement in the EPSA team.